The first indications that something was amiss came almost immediately. Floorboards, though polished to perfection, revealed subtle signs of previous tampering. Scratches hidden beneath varnish, irregular spacing between planks, and faint depressions that did not align with the original construction. These were subtle, almost imperceptible to an untrained eye, yet to the agents, they were like flashing neon signs. A hushed conversation broke out among two of the team members, murmurs of speculation and cautious hypotheses. Every step taken further heightened the sense of tension. The estate itself seemed to hold its breath, as if aware that its deepest secret was on the verge of exposure. As the team prepared to begin the floor removal, an internal debate arose regarding procedure. One agent suggested a phased approach, removing sections gradually to ensure structural integrity while documenting each step. Another argued for a more direct method, emphasizing speed to prevent any potential tampering by unknown parties. After a tense exchange, a compromise was reached. The floor would be removed in carefully measured sections, with cameras documenting every angle, fingerprints dusted, and evidence meticulously cataloged. The stakes were high. This was no ordinary property search, and the FBI was aware that any misstep could compromise the investigation or, worse, destroy evidence of what lay beneath. Outside, the world remained blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding within. Neighbors went about their morning routines. Joggers passed the estate without noticing the unmarked vehicles stationed discreetly at the edge of the driveway. The contrast between the calm exterior and the brewing storm inside could not have been more stark. It underscored a truth that investigators, historians, and journalists alike would later comment on. Appearances can deceive, and the most unsettling discoveries are often hidden behind the most ordinary facades. The first floorboard lifted marked a turning point in the operation. Dust rose in a silent cloud, catching the morning sunlight, and the faint scent of age and secrecy filled the room. The agents leaned in, their training compelling them to observe even the smallest detail. Immediately, anomalies became apparent. Markings beneath the boards that suggested careful removal in the past, traces of substances that hinted at preservation, and depressions that did not correspond with the visible structure above. These were not random irregularities. They were intentional, deliberate, and potentially sinister. Every agent felt the weight of the discovery pressing upon them, an unspoken understanding that they were standing at the threshold of something monumental. As the removal continued, a palpable tension settled over the team. Silence dominated the room, punctuated only by the soft scraping of tools against wood. Each plank removed revealed fragments of the estate's hidden past, small compartments, the faint outline of objects once hidden, and glimpses of what could only be described as meticulously preserved arrangements. Agents exchanged glances, the kind that conveyed a mixture of professional detachment and human disbelief. The discovery was advancing, and with each uncovered plank, the reality became harder to process. This was not just a simple hidden compartment or forgotten storage space. It was something far more elaborate, far more chilling. Experts later consulted described the psychological impact of such moments. When trained investigators encounter evidence that contradicts their expectations, the initial shock can manifest physically: paleness, shallow breathing, and momentary hesitation. The team at Meghan Markle's estate experienced this in real time. Their faces, usually unreadable masks of professionalism, betrayed the human response to encountering something previously unimaginable. The combination of methodical preparation, months of intelligence gathering, and the stark confrontation with hidden reality created an intense emotional mixture: awe, dread, and a profound recognition of the stakes involved. Beyond the immediate shock, the operation revealed broader implications. The estate itself became a case study in how private properties, even those belonging to high-profile individuals, can conceal extraordinary secrets. Architectural ingenuity, combined with meticulous planning, had ensured that what lay beneath the floor remained hidden for decades. The discovery challenged long-held assumptions about the property, its history, and the extent to which human ingenuity can mask reality. Agents, forensic experts, and journalists alike noted the meticulous care taken to obscure the evidence, and it became clear that the floor was not merely a surface. It was a barrier, a final line of defense for a secret that had long evaded detection. The middle of the chapter shifts focus to the human dimension of the operation. Investigators, despite their training and experience, found themselves grappling not only with the physical evidence, but with the ethical and moral questions arising from the discovery. How long had the secret existed? Who was responsible for placing the bodies there? And for what purpose? Could it have been a crime of opportunity, a carefully orchestrated concealment, or something even more deliberate? Each question carried weight, demanding careful analysis, patience, and the acknowledgement that uncovering truth is often a slow, painstaking process fraught with psychological tension. The narrative tension escalated further when the first glimpses of what lay beneath began to appear. Agents, cameras capturing every moment, started documenting what could only be described as lifeless bodies arranged beneath the floorboards. Even seasoned operatives, accustomed to confronting extreme situations, experienced a visceral reaction. A mix of shock, disbelief, and the dawning realization that they had stumbled upon something both historic and horrifying. The bodies, carefully preserved and positioned, suggested deliberate concealment rather than accident. Every detail, from posture to positioning, indicated intention, forcing investigators to reconsider initial assumptions and prepare for a complex, multi-layered inquiry. As the chapter closes, the narrative emphasizes the gravity of the discovery. What began as a routine investigation, removing old floorboards, had evolved into a case that challenged everything the agents knew about concealment, human behavior, and the lengths to which individuals might go to hide their secrets. The estate, once a symbol of elegance and privacy, had revealed a truth far more unsettling than anyone anticipated. Agents, historians, and experts alike would later reflect on this moment as a turning point. A chilling reminder that even in the most controlled environments, hidden realities can lurk just beneath the surface, waiting to be exposed. The stage is now set for the next chapter. The actual removal of the floor and the gradual revelation of the horrors concealed beneath it. What initially appeared as ordinary will give way to something unimaginable, forcing investigators, insiders, and eventually the public to confront truths that had been buried for decades. The FBI's arrival, carefully orchestrated and meticulously executed, was only the beginning of a story that would unfold layer by layer, each revelation building tension, intrigue, and an unrelenting sense of suspense. The moment the FBI began the physical removal of the floor, the atmosphere in Meghan Markle's estate shifted from tense anticipation to palpable dread. The agents had arrived prepared for any scenario, yet nothing in their training could have fully prepared them for what lay beneath those polished wooden boards. Each step forward was deliberate, every movement measured, as the team approached the task with a mixture of caution and urgency. The estate, once a sanctuary of silence and refinement, now echoed with the faint, unsettling creaks and groans of wood being pried apart, a sound that seemed almost alive, as if the building itself were protesting the exposure of its secrets. Tools were carefully selected for the operation. Crowbars, small pry bars, and specialized floor removal equipment were deployed with precision. Every plank lifted was documented meticulously, photographed from multiple angles, and cataloged for forensic analysis. The dust rose in clouds that caught the morning light streaming through the large windows, and the agents, despite their protective gear, could feel the ancient scent of hidden decay mixing with the stillness of the air. It was a scent that was both earthy and ominous, the unmistakable aroma of something long concealed. Each plank removed revealed another layer of the estate's hidden history, and with every discovery, the tension intensified. As the first few sections of flooring were pried loose, subtle anomalies became apparent. There were inconsistencies in the grain of the wood, small depressions suggesting previous tampering, and faint stains that defied explanation. The markings were too precise to be accidental, yet too obscure to immediately interpret. Agents exchanged glances, their expressions betraying the same mix of professionalism and disbelief that had characterized their arrival. There was a shared understanding among them that the operation had moved beyond the realm of ordinary investigation. Something far more complex and disturbing was about to emerge. The middle of the room was the first point of real revelation. As the agents lifted a larger panel, they noticed a slight hollow beneath, a depression that had not been visible from above. Using flashlights, they peered into the cavity, their beams cutting through darkness that had not seen light in decades. At first, it appeared empty, but closer inspection revealed small items, carefully arranged, that hinted at a deeper mystery. Objects that seemed innocuous on the surface. A tangle of old cloth, remnants of sealed containers, suggested deliberate concealment. The agents began to document every angle, noting the positioning of each item, the way shadows fell, and the subtle irregularities in the structure. Each detail, however minor it seemed, could provide crucial evidence in understanding the purpose and timeline of the concealment. As they progressed, the discovery of lifeless bodies became inevitable. The floorboards, deceptively ordinary in appearance, had been hiding something far more sinister. The first body revealed itself almost gradually, as though the estate were unveiling its secrets slowly, testing the agent's composure. The figure was preserved in a way that suggested careful handling, positioned deliberately within the hidden compartment. The reactions of the agents were instantaneous and visceral. Faces paled, breaths caught, and hands trembled slightly as they processed the reality before them. The meticulous arrangement of the bodies indicated planning and intent, transforming what might have been assumed to be an accident into a deliberate act of concealment. The agents' approach became more methodical, almost reverent, as they continued removing floorboards. Each plank lifted revealed additional bodies or evidence of concealment, a pattern that suggested the hidden space had been used repeatedly, with careful consideration given to how items were arranged and preserved. The psychological impact of this discovery was profound. Agents, trained to process scenes without bias, found themselves confronted with the reality that the estate's floor had been a deliberate barrier, a mask for horrors that had remained undisturbed for decades. The hidden compartment, meticulously constructed, spoke to an extraordinary level of planning and secrecy. Experts consulted on the operation later emphasized the complexity of removing the flooring without disturbing the concealed evidence. Specialized equipment and techniques were employed to ensure that the delicate balance of preservation was maintained. The operation required a combination of brute force and precision, an intricate dance that tested the agent's skills to the utmost. Every lift, every pry, and every careful maneuver revealed additional surprises, each more shocking than the last. The estate, once assumed to be an ordinary private residence, had revealed itself as a meticulously engineered repository of secrets. As the removal progressed, the agents documented anomalies beyond the obvious. Small compartments hidden beneath layers of wood, faint traces of substances used for preservation, and evidence of previous attempts to conceal the space were all carefully recorded. The forensic documentation was exhaustive. Photographs, detailed notes, and video recordings ensured that nothing would be lost to chance. The agents understood that the significance of the discovery extended far beyond the physical evidence. Each item, each subtle irregularity, could provide insight into the motives, methods, and timeline of the concealment. The operation had become not just a search, but a detailed investigation into the architecture of secrecy itself. The narrative also explores the psychological tension among the agents. Confronted with the unexpected and increasingly horrifying discoveries, they had to balance professional detachment with the natural human response to shock. The meticulous documentation, careful movement, and continuous communication were not only procedural requirements. They were coping mechanisms in the face of evidence that challenged their assumptions and tested their resilience. The floor, once a simple structural element, had become a symbol of hidden truths, a silent witness to acts that demanded explanation and understanding. Toward the climax of the floor removal, the scale of the concealment became evident. Multiple bodies, carefully arranged and preserved, suggested a history of secrecy that extended far beyond what the agents had anticipated. The complexity of the compartments, combined with the precision of the concealment, indicated that the estate had been designed, or modified, specifically to hide these horrors. Agents, forensic experts, and later investigators would all comment on the meticulous nature of the construction, noting the extraordinary planning required to maintain such secrecy over time. As the chapter draws to a close, the tension reaches its peak. What started as a routine removal of floorboards has evolved into a full-blown revelation of a hidden history within the estate. The agents, once confident in their ability to anticipate the unexpected, are now forced to confront a reality that is simultaneously horrifying and fascinating. The floor, removed piece by piece, has uncovered not just physical evidence, but a narrative of concealment, intent, and human ingenuity. It has set the stage for deeper investigation, raising questions about motive, method, and the broader implications for public understanding. The chapter concludes with a chilling sense of anticipation. The removal of the floorboards has revealed the first shocking truths, but there is more yet to uncover. Every new plank lifted promises further revelations, deeper mysteries, and a growing understanding of the extraordinary lengths to which someone went to hide the secrets beneath Meghan Markle's estate. The operation is far from over, and as viewers follow the investigation, they are drawn deeper into a story that challenges assumptions, evokes emotion, and promises revelations that will be both shocking and unforgettable. The moment the FBI began to uncover the first anomalies beneath the estate floor, a tension unlike any they had experienced before settled over the team. Initially, what they encountered were subtle clues, easily overlooked by an untrained eye, yet impossible to ignore for investigators attuned to the slightest irregularities. The floor, ordinary in appearance, was revealing a hidden history that had been meticulously concealed. Every plank removed, every creak, every speck of dust seemed to carry a message, a warning, a whisper from a past that had been deliberately buried. It was as if the estate itself were alive, revealing its secrets inch by inch, and challenging the agents to maintain composure as they confronted the unimaginable. At first, the anomalies were almost mundane, a scratch that didn't align with the grain of the wood, a depression too uniform to be the result of normal wear, faint discoloration that suggested hidden stains. But soon, the evidence became more deliberate. Small compartments were discovered beneath the flooring, ingeniously concealed with precision cuts and hidden latches. The craftsmanship was exquisite, the kind that suggested careful planning rather than incidental construction. Agents exchanged glances, the weight of understanding settling in. This was no ordinary concealment. Whoever had designed this space had anticipated curiosity and investigation, creating a puzzle meant to remain unsolved. The middle of the room became a focal point of unease. As the floorboards were carefully pried away, a faint metallic glint caught the flashlight's beam. The object appeared ordinary at first glance, an old clasp, perhaps, or the corner of a forgotten box. But closer inspection revealed that it was a clue to something far more sinister. Agents leaned in, breath caught, documenting every angle with cameras and detailed notes. It became increasingly clear that the anomalies were not random. They were deliberate, placed with the intent to conceal or perhaps to mislead. Every small object, every subtle irregularity in the flooring, contributed to a sense of foreboding that grew with each passing moment. Agents began noticing an odd pattern in the placement of the hidden compartments. They were not scattered haphazardly, but arranged methodically, almost ritualistically, as if someone had carefully considered both the visibility and accessibility of each section. Experts later analyzing the estate described the architectural ingenuity as impeccable and chilling. These compartments were not merely storage spaces. They were part of a larger, cohesive design meant to protect whatever lay within. The level of forethought required was staggering, and the FBI team, trained in the most intricate criminal investigations, recognized that they were witnessing an extraordinary example of concealment. As the investigation progressed, a faint odor began to permeate the room, subtle yet distinct, something that was almost too faint to detect at first, but unmistakable to those accustomed to forensic investigation. The smell was a combination of age, decay, and preservation chemicals, a silent indicator that something long concealed was more than mere objects or forgotten artifacts. Agents paused, exchanging brief, cautious words. The psychological impact of these sensory details, sight, sound, smell, was undeniable. Even the most disciplined among them were feeling the human reaction to uncovering evidence that challenged not only their expectations, but their sense of normalcy. The first signs of lifelessness, though not fully revealed, began to make themselves known. Small impressions beneath the boards suggested forms that were unmistakably human. Initially, agents approached this with skepticism. The mind often seeks rational explanations in the face of uncertainty. Perhaps old mannequins, perhaps storage forms used in the past, they speculated. But as the subtle outlines became more defined, the implications grew impossible to ignore. The evidence suggested not random storage, but the careful concealment of human bodies, an arrangement both deliberate and unsettling. The realization sent a ripple of tension through the team. Even the most hardened investigators, familiar with gruesome discoveries, felt a shiver of apprehension. It began as an ordinary day at Meghan Markle's secluded private estate, a sprawling property hidden away from the eyes of the public, tucked into a quiet corner where even the press dared not tread. Yet what unfolded would not just shock those who stumbled upon it. It would ripple through the corridors of power, leave investigators shaken to their core, and leave the world questioning the very notion of secrecy, privacy, and what lies beneath the veneer of luxury. Imagine, for a moment, that you are part of an elite FBI task force, trained to anticipate the unexpected, accustomed to the grisly and the bizarre, and yet, when you step foot onto this estate and begin removing an ordinary, seemingly innocuous section of the floor, you are faced with a scene that makes every fiber of your being freeze. This was not the kind of discovery that fits into standard protocols, nor could it be explained away with logic or careful reasoning. The floorboards were not merely old. They were a gateway to a secret that had remained buried, hidden from the world, and unseen even by those who lived within these walls. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The operation had been planned with precision. Months of surveillance, legal preparation, and internal investigation had led to this precise moment. The FBI had been called in following reports from confidential sources, reports that hinted at irregularities, unusual renovations, and, most intriguingly, whispers of something concealed beneath the layers of marble and hardwood. Such sources rarely provide accurate intel, but seasoned agents know that in high-profile cases, rumors often hold a kernel of truth, a dangerous, unsettling kernel. And so, the team arrived, professional and composed, armed with tools, evidence collection kits, and a level of resolve cultivated over years of facing criminal enterprises, corporate fraud, and matters of national security. They did not anticipate, however, that the day would challenge their understanding of the line between the ordinary and the unimaginable. The estate itself was a study in contradictions. On the surface, it radiated the calm, curated elegance one expects from a member of the royal-adjacent elite. Manicured gardens stretched as far as the eye could see, fountains burbled in rhythmic serenity, and every window reflected the soft, golden hues of sunlight in perfect symmetry. But underneath this polished exterior lay a labyrinth of history, renovation, and, it would soon become clear, secrets. The floorboards that had remained untouched for decades were more than just wood. They were a barrier, a silent custodian of a mystery that had quietly festered in shadows. The FBI agents approached with caution, aware that even the simplest of surfaces can conceal the most profound of horrors. As the first floorboard was pried loose, a cloud of dust and the faint scent of age wafted into the room. There was nothing overtly alarming at first glance, just the familiar, eerie silence that accompanies all operations where the unexpected is anticipated. But the agents, trained in observation, noticed anomalies immediately. There were irregular markings along the beams, evidence of previous tampering, and small depressions that did not align with the original architecture. These were not signs of ordinary wear and tear. The kind of meticulous attention given to the estate's appearance suggested that someone had gone to great lengths to hide whatever lay beneath. The room grew tense, every movement deliberate, every creak amplified in the stillness. The sense of something sinister lurking just out of sight became almost palpable, an electric tension that made even the most experienced agent hesitate. Minutes turned into hours as each section of the floor was methodically lifted. The investigation was painstaking. There could be no misstep, no careless assumption. And then, in a moment that would be etched into the memories of those present forever, they saw it. the first glimpse of what had been concealed. It was not the small, forgotten artifact one might imagine, nor a hidden compartment containing valuables or papers. Instead, it was something that no agent was truly prepared for: lifeless bodies, preserved in a way that suggested careful intent, positioned in a manner both deliberate and unnerving. The initial reaction was disbelief. Agents, who had been exposed to the extremes of human behavior, were momentarily frozen, processing a reality that defied expectations. It is difficult to articulate the sheer weight of that moment without conveying the tremor of horror that gripped the room. This was not a crime scene in the traditional sense. It was something far more calculated, something that demanded not just investigative rigor, but psychological resilience. The agents' training kicked in, of course, as they moved to secure the area, document the evidence, and notify appropriate authorities. But even the protocols could not shield them from the human element of shock, from the visceral understanding that the estate, with all its opulence, had been the site of a secret too disturbing for casual discovery. As news of the discovery began to circulate among those connected to the investigation, the implications were staggering. Every theory, every rumor about Meghan Markle's private dealings, every whispered conversation about hidden rooms and mysterious renovations suddenly took on a chilling weight. While it is common for high-profile figures to maintain secrets behind closed doors, the nature of this secret was unprecedented in scope and horror. The world had long speculated about the lives of the wealthy and powerful, but few had imagined that beneath the surface of affluence could lie a truth so stark, so chilling, that it would make even the most hardened investigator question their assumptions. Yet, the mystery does not end with the discovery itself. Questions proliferate as rapidly as the whispers in the press. How long had these bodies been concealed? Who had placed them there, and for what purpose? Were they victims of accident, misfortune, or something far more deliberate? What ties, if any, did this secret have to the public persona of the estate's owner? Each of these questions threatens to unravel a narrative carefully curated for years, perhaps decades. And as the FBI continues its work, uncovering documents, speaking to witnesses, and analyzing the estate's construction history, the broader implications of this discovery begin to take shape, not just in terms of legality or investigation, but in the way society perceives secrecy, power, and the hidden lives of those we think we know. The middle section of the introduction focuses on these ripple effects. It considers the psychology of concealment, the architectural ingenuity often employed to hide secrets, and the painstaking measures taken to ensure that the hidden remained unseen. Experts in forensic architecture, criminal psychology, and security systems weighed in, highlighting how even the most meticulous designs can fail when human curiosity and diligence converge. In this case, it was an ordinary investigative procedure, the removal of a floor, that exposed a secret that had been thought untouchable, a stark reminder that even the most secure walls cannot indefinitely contain truth. The narrative tension escalates when we consider the human element. Investigators, historians, and insiders alike recognize that behind every opulent estate lies a story, often unspoken, sometimes deliberately obscured. The discovery of lifeless bodies challenges assumptions, forcing a reckoning with the uncomfortable reality that appearances can deceive. For Meghan Markle, her estate's hidden floor and the secret it concealed serve as a metaphor for the duality of public perception versus private reality. The agent's pale reactions are not merely a reflection of procedural shock. They are a testament to the profound dissonance between expectation and discovery. Finally, the introduction closes by circling back to the stakes. What started as a simple floor removal has become an investigation into human behavior, secrecy, and the limits of concealment. The story sets the stage for a deep dive into the unfolding events, promising viewers that in the coming chapters they will witness a meticulous reconstruction of the discovery, explore the history of the estate, understand the legal and societal implications, and grapple with the moral and psychological questions that arise when hidden truths come to light. The narrative is not merely about bodies or secrecy. It is about curiosity, accountability, and the shocking intersection of power and hidden reality. Every moment of the investigation, every detail uncovered beneath the floorboards, will challenge assumptions and provoke reflection. By the end of this video, viewers will not only have witnessed a discovery that turned seasoned agents pale, they will have confronted the unsettling realization that beneath the polished surfaces of privilege, some secrets are darker and more complex than anyone ever imagined. And as we move forward, the story will unfold layer by layer, with each revelation raising new questions, deepening the mystery, and compelling us to reconsider everything we think we know about this estate, its owner, and the hidden truths that lie just out of sight. As the agents continued their meticulous work, the atmosphere within the estate became almost unbearable. Each floorboard removed seemed to whisper secrets of its own, and the weight of history pressed down on those present. One agent paused, his gloved hand trembling slightly as he reached for a particularly aged plank. The wood had been polished to near invisibility, a perfect camouflage for the hidden horrors beneath. He exchanged a glance with his colleague, a silent acknowledgement that they were about to confront something far beyond what any procedural manual could prepare them for. There was a collective understanding. This was no ordinary discovery. The estate itself had been a symbol of privacy and exclusivity, a haven from prying eyes. Its owner had cultivated a reputation of elegance and discretion, a life seemingly untouched by scandal. But as the investigation unfolded, the stark contrast between public perception and hidden reality became impossible to ignore. The carefully manicured lawns, the pristine facades, and the luxurious interiors had masked a darker story, one that had been buried both physically and metaphorically. It was a powerful reminder that appearances can deceive, and that even the most controlled environments can harbor secrets that challenge our understanding of truth and morality. While the FBI agents were trained to remain objective, documenting evidence with precision and following protocols to the letter, human emotion inevitably intruded. There were moments when the room seemed to hold its breath, when even the most seasoned investigators felt the weight of the discovery pressing down on them. The lifeless bodies, hidden beneath layers of wood and dust, were not just evidence. They were a haunting manifestation of secrecy and concealment. The agents' reactions were raw, a mix of professional detachment and instinctual horror. Each new plank removed revealed more details, forcing them to confront the reality of what had been hidden for who knows how long. The middle of the introduction delves deeper into the psychological impact of the discovery. Experts consulted on the case emphasized that such revelations are rarely just about the physical evidence. They are about context, intent, and the human capacity for concealment. The bodies were arranged in a manner that suggested deliberation, not randomness. The positioning, the state of preservation, and the hidden compartments all indicated a level of planning that was deeply unsettling. Forensic psychologists noted that discovering such evidence can evoke a spectrum of responses, from shock and disbelief to profound moral questioning. Agents were not just processing what they saw, they were grappling with the implications, both legal and ethical, of uncovering a secret that had been meticulously hidden from the world. Beyond the immediate shock, the introduction explores the broader ramifications. The estate was not just a private residence. It was a symbol, a statement, and a reflection of the intricate web of secrecy surrounding high-profile individuals. What had been uncovered beneath the floorboards challenged assumptions about privacy, security, and the lengths to which individuals might go to conceal the truth. The discovery forced a reconsideration of everything previously taken at face value: the renovations, the estate's history, and the seemingly innocuous choices in design and layout. Every detail, once overlooked, became significant in piecing together the story of what lay hidden beneath the surface. As the narrative unfolds, the introduction emphasizes the ripple effect of the discovery. News of the operation, though initially contained within law enforcement circles, began to leak, sparking speculation and intrigue. Media outlets, social commentators, and online forums buzzed with theories, some grounded in fact, others fueled by rumor and conjecture. The public reaction underscored a fundamental truth: the fascination with secrecy, scandal, and the lives of the elite is enduring, and the revelation of lifeless bodies beneath a private estate captured imaginations in a way few events could. This was not just a story about crime or concealment. It was a story about human curiosity, the thirst for truth, and the shock that accompanies the uncovering of long-buried secrets. The introduction also integrates the element of suspense by considering the unknown variables. Who had placed the bodies there? For how long had they been hidden? Were there accomplices? Or was this the work of a single individual? What had been the motivation? Fear, revenge, greed, or something far more personal? Each question added layers of complexity to the investigation, and each answer, as it emerged, promised to deepen the mystery. The story was not static. It was unfolding in real time, with each new revelation prompting more questions than answers. The anticipation of what was yet to come created a tension that permeated both the estate and the narrative, compelling the audience to remain engaged, eager to learn more. Toward the conclusion of the introduction, the focus shifts to the human element and the enduring intrigue of secrets. The discovery beneath Meghan Markle's estate is emblematic of a broader phenomenon: the interplay between public image and private reality. It highlights the lengths to which individuals will go to maintain appearances, the ways in which hidden actions can contradict outward behavior, and the inevitability that truth, no matter how well concealed, has a way of surfacing. For viewers, this realization is both compelling and unsettling. It prompts reflection on the nature of secrecy, the fragility of reputation, and the profound impact of uncovering what was meant to remain hidden. Finally, the introduction circles back to its opening hook, ensuring a satisfying narrative arc. What began as a seemingly routine investigation, a removal of old floorboards, has evolved into a story of shock, discovery, and moral reckoning. The narrative establishes the stakes for the remainder of the video, a meticulous exploration of the discovery, the history of the estate, the investigation's findings, and the broader implications for public understanding and legal accountability. By the end of the introduction, viewers are fully immersed, aware of the gravity of the discovery, and primed for the unfolding drama, each chapter promising new revelations and deeper insight into a mystery that began beneath the surface of a private estate. The introduction, now fully fleshed out, establishes the tone, stakes, and narrative framework for the rest of the video. It sets up suspense, curiosity, and emotional engagement while preparing the audience for the detailed chapters to come. The story promises to uncover hidden truths, explore psychological and legal dimensions, and maintain high tension throughout the investigation and its revelations. The day the FBI arrived at Meghan Markle's private estate began like any other in the quiet, secluded neighborhood where the property sat. Early morning sunlight spilled over manicured lawns, the dewdrops glittering like tiny diamonds across perfectly trimmed grass. On the surface, everything appeared serene, almost idyllic, a picture-perfect scene that betrayed nothing of the chaos about to unfold inside. Yet beneath this facade of calm, a storm was brewing. Behind the walls of the estate, secrets had been buried for decades, meticulously hidden, waiting for the precise moment when discovery would become inevitable. That day, it would be the FBI who would lift the veil. The team arrived in unmarked vehicles, their presence as discreet as it could be for an operation of this scale. Each agent was briefed to the last detail. Months of surveillance, corroborated reports from confidential informants, and internal audits had pointed to anomalies within the estate, structural irregularities, unexplained renovations, and faint rumors of hidden compartments. None of it made sense on the surface. The estate appeared pristine, untouched, and impeccably maintained. But for those trained to look beyond appearances, the inconsistencies were like breadcrumbs leading to something far darker. As the agents stepped onto the cobblestone driveway, their boots making soft, deliberate crunches against the gravel, a sense of anticipation settled over the group, a tension that whispered of secrets ready to be exposed. Inside the estate, the environment was deceivingly ordinary. Wide hallways reflected the morning light, polished wooden floors gleaming under the careful hand of housekeeping staff. Expensive furniture lined the rooms, and art adorned the walls, each piece meticulously selected to convey taste, sophistication, and a life of quiet elegance. But for the FBI, these were superficial distractions, carefully constructed to divert attention from the true nature of the property. Agents moved with practiced precision, scanning walls, noting unusual seams and paneling, and comparing observed details with architectural blueprints. They were looking for anomalies, places where the ordinary might conceal the extraordinary, and their instincts told them to pay close attention to every detail. The estate had been designed, in part, with security in mind. Hidden passageways, reinforced walls, and reinforced flooring were all present, though their original purpose was shrouded in mystery. The agents understood immediately that uncovering what lay beneath would require more than brute force. It would demand patience, precision, and a careful reading of the environment. This was not just a search, it was an operation requiring the full extent of their investigative expertise. Tools were unpacked, evidence collection kits readied, and communication devices checked. Every agent knew their role, yet beneath the professional calm, a silent question lingered. What exactly would they find? Every movement now required even greater caution. The agents understood that the slightest misstep could disturb delicate evidence, potentially altering the historical and forensic significance of the discovery. Cameras were repositioned, photographs taken at multiple angles, and notes meticulously logged. The forensic process became a ritual of precision, each step carefully choreographed to preserve both evidence and composure. Yet despite these precautions, the psychological impact was inescapable. The combination of historical concealment, the architectural ingenuity of the hidden compartments, and the initial signs of human presence beneath the floor created an atmosphere that was almost tangible in its intensity. Experts brought in to consult on the operation noted that such discoveries often provoke a spectrum of responses, from clinical detachment to visceral fear. In this case, the tension was amplified by the estate's high-profile ownership and the unexpected scale of the concealment. The first signs of what lay beneath, forms, shadows, and anomalies, were enough to evoke a sense of foreboding that would only intensify as the operation continued. The agents, while maintaining professional rigor, were now acutely aware that the floor was not simply a structural element. It was a threshold between ordinary perception and the extraordinary, the hidden and the revealed. As the chapter progresses, attention turns to the human element. The investigators struggle to reconcile training with instinct. The first tangible signs of what lay beneath the floorboards forced them to confront an unsettling truth. Appearances can be deceiving, and even the most secure, carefully maintained environments can harbor secrets beyond imagination. The psychological strain, combined with the meticulous nature of the operation, created a tension that dominated the room. Every agent became acutely aware that they were not just uncovering physical evidence. They were witnessing a story deliberately hidden from view, a narrative crafted in shadows and secrecy. Toward the climax of the chapter, the evidence became undeniable. The subtle forms beneath the floorboards, once easily dismissed, were now unmistakable. The team had reached the first body, a human form preserved with care, arranged in a manner that suggested deliberate placement rather than accident. The revelation was both shocking and surreal. Agents, conditioned to face the most gruesome scenes, found themselves grappling with disbelief, uncertainty, and the profound moral weight of what they had uncovered. The floor, once a symbol of ordinary domestic structure, had revealed itself as a vault of secrets that challenged both perception and understanding. The chapter concludes with a sense of mounting suspense. The first signs of lifeless bodies have been revealed, yet much remains hidden. The floorboards, meticulously removed one by one, promise additional discoveries, deeper insights, and further confirmation of a deliberate concealment plan. The narrative tension is now at its peak. The audience, like the agents, is on the edge of understanding, aware that what comes next will not only shock, but fundamentally alter the perception of the estate, its history, and its owner. The stage is set for Chapter 4, where the full scale of the discovery, the lifeless bodies themselves, will be revealed in detail, amplifying shock, suspense, and investigative intrigue. The moment of truth arrived slowly, almost reluctantly, as the FBI agents continued their painstaking work. The floorboards of Meghan Markle's estate had already begun to reveal their secrets, but nothing could have fully prepared the team for the horrifying revelation that awaited them. Each plank lifted, each subtle anomaly examined, had built tension and anticipation, But it was the moment the first lifeless body was fully revealed that shattered the boundary between professional detachment and raw human shock. At first, it was subtle, an outline, a shadow, a hint of something beneath the wooden floor. Agents approached with extreme caution, aware that any misstep could compromise evidence or cause structural collapse. When they finally illuminated the compartment with bright LED lights, the shape of the body became unmistakable. The figure was preserved in a way that indicated deliberate concealment, positioned carefully within a hidden cavity beneath the planks. The air seemed to thicken with the weight of the discovery, and for a moment, silence reigned over the room. Agents, trained to process shocking scenes, found themselves momentarily frozen, grappling with a reality that was both surreal and profoundly disturbing. The discovery of the first body prompted immediate action. Photographs were taken, measurements recorded, and evidence carefully catalogued. Every detail mattered: the position of the limbs, the state of preservation, the condition of the surrounding environment. Forensic investigators noted that the body had been deliberately arranged, as if the person who concealed it had intended for it to remain undiscovered for decades. The precision suggested premeditation, careful planning, and a level of foresight that was both chilling and extraordinary. Agents documented every angle, aware that the scene was now a historical record of human behavior at its most calculated and secretive. As the investigation progressed, more bodies were revealed. What began as a single figure quickly became a series of discoveries, each more unsettling than the last. The compartment beneath the floorboards was larger than initially suspected, designed to house multiple individuals, each placed with deliberate care. The realization that this was not an isolated case, but a repeated act of concealment sent a shockwave through the team. Even seasoned investigators, accustomed to crime scenes of varying severity, found themselves pale, their composure strained under the gravity of the discovery. The sheer scale of what lay beneath the estate defied imagination, transforming the operation from a routine investigation into a complex and horrifying case study. The arrangement of the bodies indicated a careful methodology. They were not haphazardly placed. Each had been positioned to maximize concealment and minimize detection. Forensic experts later analyzed the scene and suggested that the methods employed demonstrated a knowledge of preservation, anatomy, and concealment techniques rarely seen outside of professional or highly calculated criminal activity. The agents, while documenting each body, could not escape the sense of deliberate intent behind the concealment. The estate, once a symbol of privacy and elegance, had become a chamber of secrets, an engineered space designed to hide truth and manipulate perception. The psychological impact on the agents was profound. Discovering multiple lifeless bodies beneath the floor of a high-profile private estate was an unprecedented experience. Professional detachment gave way, briefly, to disbelief and horror. Paleness swept across faces, hands trembled, and even seasoned investigators had moments where words failed them. It was a powerful reminder that no amount of training can fully inoculate a person against the raw shock of human tragedy and calculated secrecy. The weight of the discovery pressed down, and each agent instinctively understood that what they had uncovered would resonate far beyond the immediate scene. The discovery prompted a flurry of activity within the investigation. Evidence collection intensified, with every detail scrutinized for potential clues regarding timing, method, and intent. Investigators noted the state of clothing, the positioning of limbs, and any personal items that accompanied the bodies. Each observation provided insight into a narrative carefully hidden beneath the surface, a story encoded in the very architecture of the estate itself. The operation became not only about uncovering evidence, but about piecing together a history of secrecy and concealment that had been meticulously crafted over years, perhaps decades. As the agents continued their work, questions multiplied. Who had placed the bodies there? Why had they been concealed in such a calculated manner? Was this the work of a single individual or part of a broader conspiracy? And perhaps most disturbingly, how had the estate maintained its outward appearance of normalcy for so long, while hiding such horrors beneath its floors? Each question added layers of complexity, heightening tension and deepening the mystery surrounding the estate. The agents knew that the investigation was far from over, and that the initial discovery, while shocking, was only the beginning of uncovering the full scope of what had been hidden. The narrative tension escalates as the investigation intersects with public perception and potential media scrutiny. The fact that the estate belonged to a figure of immense public interest amplified the stakes. Any disclosure, accidental or intentional, had the potential to create widespread shock and speculation. Investigators were acutely aware of the implications, both legally and socially. The bodies beneath the floorboards were not just evidence. They were a catalyst for questions about morality, privacy, and the lengths individuals go to protect secrets. The gravity of the discovery demanded careful handling, both for forensic integrity and to manage the potential fallout beyond the estate. Forensic experts were brought in to assess the preservation and arrangement of the bodies. Their preliminary analysis suggested that careful measures had been taken to maintain the condition of the remains, possibly using preservation techniques not typically associated with domestic environments. This observation heightened the sense of premeditation and sophistication. It suggested that whoever was responsible had anticipated investigation, taken steps to mitigate decomposition, and carefully controlled the environment within the hidden compartment. The combination of architectural design, concealment, and preservation indicated a level of planning that was methodical and chilling, far beyond ordinary criminal activity. As the chapter draws to a close, the scope of the discovery begins to crystallize. The lifeless bodies, revealed piece by piece, illustrate a narrative of secrecy, deception, and meticulous planning. The agents, while maintaining professional rigor, are now acutely aware of the historical, psychological, and moral weight of what they have uncovered. The floorboards, once ordinary elements of domestic architecture, have revealed themselves as the final guardians of a hidden truth, challenging assumptions about privacy, security, and human behavior. The chapter ends with a sense of unresolved tension. The initial shock of discovering the bodies is only the beginning. The story beneath the floorboards is far from fully told. Investigators must now trace origins, motives, and methods, piecing together a narrative that has remained hidden for decades. The audience, alongside the agents, is left with a chilling understanding. Beneath the polished surface of an estate that once symbolized elegance and discretion lies a reality, both horrifying and meticulously concealed. Each revelation, each new detail uncovered in the following chapters, promises to deepen the mystery, heighten suspense, and challenge perceptions of truth and secrecy. The moment the news of the discovery beneath Meghan Markle's private estate began to circulate, the shockwaves were immediate, rippling through law enforcement, media, and the wider public. Inside the estate, FBI agents were still processing the initial horrors. The multiple lifeless bodies meticulously concealed beneath layers of polished flooring. But outside, the implications of what had been uncovered were already beginning to take shape. This was no longer just a high-profile investigation. It was a story that would dominate headlines, social media discussions, and public imagination, challenging long-held perceptions about privacy, power, and secrecy. Within law enforcement circles, reactions ranged from astonishment to disbelief. Veteran agents, many of whom had encountered crime scenes of every imaginable severity, struggled to reconcile the reality of the discovery with the estate's outwardly serene appearance. Detailed briefings were convened immediately, bringing together forensic experts, field agents, and legal advisors. Every piece of evidence, no matter how small, was scrutinized to understand not only the physical facts, but also the broader implications. Who had orchestrated this concealment, why, and how long the secret had remained hidden. Specialists in forensic architecture and concealment techniques were brought in to analyze the hidden compartments, and early assessments suggested a level of sophistication rarely seen outside of professional criminal enterprises. The media quickly caught wind of the unfolding situation, though details were initially scarce. Rumors and speculation began to circulate across news outlets and social platforms, fueled by whispers from unnamed sources and the growing intrigue surrounding the estate. Social media erupted with questions, theories, and shock, as users grappled with the idea that such a discovery could exist beneath a residence associated with wealth, fame, and a figure as publicly visible as Meghan Markle. Tweets, posts, and video commentary multiplied exponentially, each new claim adding to the tension and amplifying public curiosity. What had been an isolated law enforcement operation rapidly became a global conversation. The public's fascination was driven not only by the discovery itself, but also by the apparent contradiction between perception and reality. Meghan Markle's estate had long been portrayed as a sanctuary, a private space removed from public scrutiny. Yet beneath its polished floors and manicured lawns lay a hidden narrative that defied imagination. People were captivated by the sheer audacity of the concealment, the precision with which the bodies had been arranged, the care taken to ensure they remained undiscovered, and the length of time the secret had remained hidden. Commentators noted that this was not merely a criminal discovery, but a story about human ingenuity, secrecy, and the profound consequences of concealing the truth. Inside the estate, agents began to coordinate with legal authorities to manage the next stages of the investigation. The discovery of multiple bodies beneath the floorboards introduced a host of procedural, legal, and ethical considerations. Evidence had to be secured without contamination, and detailed records maintained to support potential criminal proceedings. The agents were acutely aware that any misstep could compromise the investigation or diminish the evidentiary value of the discovery. At the same time, they had to manage the human impact of the discovery, the psychological strain on themselves, their colleagues, and anyone else directly involved. The estate, once a private and controlled environment, had become a nexus of tension, horror, and meticulous investigation. The discovery shockwaves were felt within the circles connected to the estate as well. Royal insiders, staff, and acquaintances of Meghan Markle were reportedly stunned, struggling to reconcile their personal knowledge of the estate with the revelations emerging from beneath its floorboards. Whispers of hidden rooms, past renovations, and previously unexplained architectural choices began to resurface, prompting speculation that some had long suspected there was more to the property than met the eye. Experts analyzing these reactions highlighted the interplay between public perception, private knowledge, and the human tendency to overlook subtle warning signs until a crisis brings them into stark relief. The ripple effect extended beyond personal and professional circles into legal and political realms. Legal experts began discussing potential consequences for estate ownership, liability, and the handling of concealed evidence. Questions emerged regarding the responsibilities of property owners in maintaining safe environments and reporting unusual findings, particularly when the concealment involved human remains. Media outlets consulted forensic specialists, historians, and former law enforcement officials to provide context and analysis, resulting in a flood of opinion pieces, interviews, and expert commentary. The story, while anchored in a specific discovery, quickly became a broader conversation about secrecy, accountability, and the public's right to know. Social media amplified the shock and curiosity. Users shared images of similar historical concealments, architectural curiosities, and forensic operations, drawing comparisons and constructing theories. Memes, videos, and commentaries circulated widely, often exaggerating or speculating on the circumstances surrounding the estate. The viral nature of the conversation contributed to an environment of relentless scrutiny, where every detail of the discovery was examined, debated, and reinterpreted. Experts cautioned against premature conclusions, but acknowledged the challenge of controlling public perception once a story of this magnitude entered the social sphere. Inside law enforcement, investigators noted the psychological impact of the discovery on their own team. Even agents accustomed to encountering grisly or unexpected scenes found themselves grappling with the calculated nature of the concealment. Discussions among the team highlighted the unprecedented planning required to hide multiple bodies beneath a private residence. The discovery challenged assumptions about what could remain hidden in a domestic environment, prompting agents to consider historical precedents, architectural strategies, and the lengths to which someone might go to avoid detection. The combination of professional assessment and emotional reaction created a unique dynamic that intensified the sense of urgency and importance surrounding the investigation. The human element of shock was mirrored in expert analysis. Psychologists and criminologists consulted on the case emphasized the tension inherent in uncovering secrets long concealed. They noted that even seasoned professionals experience cognitive dissonance when confronting evidence that defies expectation, particularly when the hidden activity suggests deliberate intent and premeditation. The layering of concealment, architectural sophistication, and the presence of lifeless bodies created an extraordinary scenario, one that challenged not only investigative procedure, but also ethical and psychological boundaries. The chapter also explores the reactions of neighbors and the local community. Though unaware of the full scope of the discovery, residents reported unusual activity at the estate, unmarked vehicles, unfamiliar personnel, and heightened security measures. The contrast between ordinary daily life and the extraordinary events unfolding behind closed doors amplified the sense of suspense and public intrigue. Observers described a palpable tension in the area, as if the neighborhood itself had become a participant in the unfolding drama, absorbing and reflecting the shock emanating from the estate. Finally, the chapter concludes with the broader implications of the discovery. The immediate reactions, the pale faces of agents, the astonishment of legal and forensic experts, the global media frenzy, and the speculative curiosity of the public demonstrate the profound impact of uncovering what was once hidden. The estate, its polished floors now removed, has become a symbol not only of human ingenuity and concealment, but also of the enduring fascination with secrets, scandal, and the hidden lives of the powerful.